All right. What's up, Blueprint family? Thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Instagram viewers, for again increasing our numbers. Also, YouTube. We got some upticks on YouTube as far as our subscriptions. So, thank you all there. Please tell friends, family to like and subscribe both Instagram and our YouTube. We really appreciate it. And as always, this is a live show. You may do a video call in. We had a few of those already. Also, too, we also encourage comments. You may also type in comment questions, or even if you want to remain anonymous, you may also too send us a message on our www.wifeconomics.com/submit a question page, and we will consider that information for our next show. Also, too, if you all have any questions or topics you would like for us to cover, by all means, please let us know about it, and we'll incorporate that into one of our shows, hopefully. Yeah. And so that brings us to tonight's topic: becoming a team in your relationship. Mm-hmm. So we're going to give you some tips on how to strengthen that teamwork effort in your relationship, and what does that mean overall. And then also too, we have a letter tonight to show example of what we're talking about, and trying to help this lady with her situation as well with her relationship.
Yeah, kind of leading on to the video like we had posted earlier, just learning how to establish that teamwork, what that looks like, how to do it if you are struggling with it. It's a common thing. We'll get into some of the reasons why this is a common thing, but let's dig on into this question, which is a very good question, like you said, in particular, because it is a wife who is saying divorce is not an option. So help me out. And I'm all for that, right?
Right.
All for it. So let's dig on into this. As always, Instagram viewers, you're welcome to tune into YouTube if you want to see it live up on the screen. But if not, we'll keep you updated as we go along. All right, so subject: husband and I are not a team. I'm a working mom of two. I have responsibilities out the wazoo. New word for me.
You're showing your age. No, that is not a
showing my age. Am I?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's old. Out the wazoo. That's how you're supposed to say it.
That is old. Yeah, that is old because I don't. That ain't my lingo. But and I am a workaholic. Husband works as well, but basically only outside of the house. He makes good money, and we are not stressed out financially. We have been married over 10 years. Kids are elementary school age, activities, school engagements, etc. I feel like I'm the only one running the house, running the schedule, running the development. Is kiddo okay on academics, sports? The house is always in a state of despair after a big, exhausting remodel. Think a few walls still not painted, dust accumulating to dangerous amounts before I find them. Before I find the 3 minutes to clean them. It's nighttime. Yard is slowly deteriorating. Dog doesn't get walked unless I do, etc. Pick up a chore. It's not done until either I find the free millisecond to do it, or he will let it go for months. He has zero guilt. Sleeping, yes, he does work early hours. He does work overtime. He does get tired, but he naps all the time. Every day off while I get stuff done. Zero guilt going to the gym, going on the computer, news, YouTube, games. If I did the things he does, I'd be the most rested, in shape person. I'm also a workaholic, working with a business coach and a therapist to learn to rest, to learn to fully engage with my kids, to learn self-care, to learn to put the priority even marginally back onto myself. So here's my question. Without divorce as an option, how do I communicate to a chronically non-engaged, non-chore participating spouse that I need a freaking partner and a teammate? How do I get an engaged dad, engaged husband, engaged person by my side? How do I make him want to do the dishes? That was a lot. I felt that energy at that end. She was upset right now.
I this gave me a solution, a partial solution to this. Just listening to this, I have
Mhm.
something that I probably prescribe outside of the advice that we're going to give you all. But if we can go ahead and dissect this information that she's throwing up here,
Okay.
and we could talk about this letter even more in greater detail. I think this was wonderfully written. She gave out a lot of information about her day-to-day life dealing with the children. She's also working too, right? And she's an
Mhm.
entrepreneur.
I don't know.
She runs a
What it
business or
said.
something.
She said she's working with a business coach and a therapist to learn to work. No, so I just think she just works. It's maybe a 9 to 5 or something like that. You know, but she
I
said
don't
she's
know.
a
Hold on.
workaholic. So.
Okay, she said that she's a workaholic too,
Uh-huh.
and then the husband is as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Well, anything else you wanted to point out
In
this letter?
particular, no, because this is general stuff. You know, we've seen this a lot, so I kind of,
Right.
you know, this is kind of easy to go on to. But yeah, we get it.
So the problem here is that mainly on her weekends, it is tied up in doing chores. And then the husband, I understand. I'm a man myself. And he's, I don't know what type of industry of work that he's doing, but he's working overtime
Yeah.
and he's tired. I
Right.
get that. Trying to catch up with sleep with elementary school age children is quite impossible, especially for the mother who's also doing chores. I share the empathy and I understand that there. What this means is that they don't have enough time in the day to do everything that needs to be done. And do you know what I think is a solution to this or will help them?
We can get into that before we get into some steps. A quick one.
Do you think
about the
what I would think, and if they're making good money, she said they're in good financial standings.
Yeah.
You have to understand one currency that you all don't have and you all are not in a good standing with, and that's called time. Time. And in order to get time back, here's a secret. Do anyone know? Any viewers out there, you all know how to get time back?
I do.
What's that?
For management, delegation.
No.
Really? Yeah. Oh, I don't then.
It's to
what?
Spend money.
Well, yeah.
In order to get time back in your day, this woman needs to hire a maid.
Yeah, that's what I meant by delegation.
Right.
Hire
okay.
some.
Okay.
Like you got to delegate your task to somebody else in order for you. I teach that in my wife economics because I kind of thought about that, but yeah, that's so true.
Right.
I didn't write that down.
Because you will never catch up with your chores. Having how many children they have? 3 elementary school age children.
2, I think it said.
2.
Yeah.
They only have 2 children, elementary school age.
I'm a working mom of 2. Yep.
Okay. What I would suggest is that they hire a maid to help them catch up in their chores, and have the children to help out on the weekends, and including the mother, and try to get the father involved, because what he's going to realize is that if he don't help out, then he's going to lose some money, and that is going to involve his wife hiring a maid to help out with the chores. That's just the realistic, idealistic situation here for them. And if he don't want to spend money, his hard-earned overtime money on buying a maid, then he's going to have to figure out a way to get some rest and energy for doing chores bit by bit. But for the meantime, if they're behind on chores, then I would advise that they get some help with that.
Either way,
pay for some help to catch up on that, because it's going to be an endless cycle of always having to do chores anyway.
Right. And it's not really that expensive in the long run. If you think about like a month worth of maybe the maid coming once a week, then, you know, I've used that method before. Just whenever we have big tasks or we're doing big things, you delegate that task so that you're not stressed out, and then your husband isn't stressed out. And then it's like, you know, able to come to a resolution or a compromise into how if you are going to keep this maid on, maybe that's something you do. Or like my husband says, you all figure out ways to get engaged and involved in figuring out who's going to do what within each other. And we'll get into that because, of course, that involves communication, which is huge, of course, and pretty much the answer to all relationship problems. But how you do it is the difficult part for a lot of people. Just being that mindful awareness of how you're communicating through all of this. And in particular, that was just one thing I really wanted to point out. I get it. It builds so much resentment when you feel like you have been doing so much work and you don't feel like your spouse is picking up, their slack or their part of it or in it or whatever. I get that. But it's just super important to be mindful of how the image you are holding in your mind about your husband. In particular, you're saying divorce is not an option. So don't say he's a chronically non-engaged, non-chore participating spouse, because that's gonna, in your mind, it gives you that it detaches you from
he's a hardworking great father.
Exactly, yes. Who, by what you said, and I noticed, and I love the mindset anyway, you're understanding to the fact that he is working hard. He does get tired, and yeah, he probably does want his time to go to the gym or play his video games, whatever.
Stress relief.
Yeah, we totally get that. So if you could switch that train of thought just a little bit and try to avoid the attacks on character, because then that in your mind is going to kind of dampen how you feel about him, because I'm sure it doesn't make you feel good to say these things about your spouse. You're writing in, so you're like wanting that help anyway. So the first way to help yourself in general is to try to get a better vision in your mind of him. In particular, maybe see him doing some of the chores in your mind that you want him to do.
No, I mean, but that part about the dishes and doing chores, like I said, just present the idea to him and say, hey, honey, I'm about to we're going to hire a maid, or either you can help us with the chores. That's just the bottom line of it. You know, that just is, because if he knows, if he's a logical man and he's reasonable, then he will see that, we've fallen behind when it comes to all of our chores, and the grass is about 2 feet tall or whatever the case may be. And, we need to hire some landscape help or whatever to catch up on our chores. So that is the only logical way to really, like she said, get her partner and her teammate. It needs to be, may need to hire one, to be honest with you. If he doesn't want, if he's exhausted and, cannot contribute.
And finances not being an option.
Right.
So you all can figure out the resolution, which we're going to walk you through on how to come to that. But in the meantime, that immediate put out that fire would be that.
Right,
totally agree, because you're putting out the fire. Like it's time to bring things down a little bit. You're going to feel relieved after the maid leaves. I know it can be a little anxiety driven. Maybe read up on what it's like to have a housekeeper. Prepare yourself for that interaction of bringing a stranger into your house. Maybe even kicking the idea to your husband is going to make him like, I hope.
And then also to be direct, be very direct with your housekeeper about what chores you need to get done, and make sure they get those things done. Just want to be, put that out there as well.
So. Right. But there are a few reasons why, in general, a couple can struggle with communicating about chores or responsibilities, or just in general building that teamwork of establishing roles within the relationship. We had a whole video on that before. This kind of ties into this a little bit, but in particular, people have different upbringing, and expectations. Oh my gosh, I'm tired, y'all. Sorry. But people are just not brought up the same way. They don't. Sometimes, if you are brought up in a home where the mom does all the work and you're used to seeing that. Maybe this lady is a working mom. So maybe he had a stay-at-home mom or whatever. So it's different. In his mind, he may still see and associate the woman and the mother being the one that's taking care of all the kids and doing everything as far as, managing the household that way, because that's how he was brought up. Who knows? You didn't go into that, detail, but that's going to be a totally different mental experience if your spouse is brought up where they see two working parents and they share that responsibility. Then they may be a little more understanding of, I need to, help out with the dishes or, do something like that. In their mind, they're more conditioned to think that this is something that needs to be done. So that's just certainly something to consider and take in mind. And that's why we said having these conversations early in the relationship of like your childhood and what your expectations are and what that looks like for you will help you not get into the situation to begin with. You can start putting some things in place, coming to some common understanding before you get, this deep in.
And so we're different standards. So we're at different standards of cleanliness. So one person's considered to be a clean kitchen may be different from what another person considers to be a clean kitchen. So this can lead to disagreements about responsibilities for cleaning certain areas of the household, and often certain chores need to be done.
Yeah. Yep. Stop.
And then also too, lack of communication. So sometimes couples simply don't communicate
Right.
properly. So in this case, that's an example of it. So
Right.
they need to communicate effectively about chores that they may avoid talking about because they don't want to start an argument.
Right. Exactly.
So they may need to realize that their spouse has different expectations.
Right. It just makes me wonder what's the conversation, in particular with this topic, with this woman and her situation. It just makes me wonder what the conversation is like if she mentions, wanting him to pick up the slack and do more work or something of that nature. Because just in general, the way this letter was kind of written, it kind of may seem like you may come off, a little resentful when you're talking to him. So it's going to sound much different and make it much harder to communicate when you're already, in a funk in a way. It's going to make that expression come out kind of funky. If the your man's not going to receive it as well. And, we get all into that a lot because it really does matter how you present something to your spouse. So let's go and dig into the 7 essential steps to becoming a team in your romantic relationship. Sorry, our dog is trying to join the stream. But the first one, of course, would be to communicate openly and honestly. So this is what we're talking about here, but we're going to get into some specific examples because it can be, I guess, kind of hard to really understand each other's thoughts, feelings, and perspectives if you guys are both tired. It sounds like, for example, this couple is tired. So oftentimes it makes it so much harder to even communicate or want to understand what the other person's going through because you're going through something too. And we just have to really be mindful of that when you're in a relationship. But it's always nice if you can just start talking about your expectations. What does a fair division of chores look like in particular for this relationship? What does a fair division of, in general, maybe finances, maybe who's going to do their share of work with the kids, all of that has to be negotiated on and talked about. And in particular, what did that look like for you and in your mind? What are your expectations on that? How often do you think certain things should be done or not done? Sometimes, not having that conversation can be so easy to do because you're just expecting things to be a certain way and not really realizing that your spouse may not expect it to be that way either. So, it's just super important to be mindful of how you're communicating that. Also, avoid blaming and criticizing. So this kind of goes right into what I was saying about if you're upset, you're tired, you're frustrated, you go into it name calling. I don't want to get into the examples that she called her husband, but just that ideology of, you're just unhappy and you're just going to go into it and want to place all the blame onto your spouse. In those moments, it's not going to be constructive to the argument. It may make you feel better to throw out these names or character, flaws or whatever, but it's not going to do the relationship any benefit. So if you really want to have your conversation go in a constructive manner to where that you can reach resolution, please be sure to express your feelings in a way that is constructive and will bring about the results you want.
Yeah, and then also be specific instead of saying you never do this.
Yeah.
So avoid generalizations. I always say that too. So say something like, I would appreciate it if you could do the dishes once a week. Yeah. Instead of saying that you never do the dishes, you need to start doing them.
Yeah.
Because that builds resentment, like my wife said, and it makes the other spouse not even want to participate. Saying things, saying negative things to try to get people to participate is the best way to get them not to participate and start an argument or either some sort of form of competition between both of you.
Yes.
So you don't want to address or communicate in that way.
Yeah, you really have to just be mindful of your words and your actions and how you are communicating, because that is really the reflection of how you see your husband or your wife as your teammate. If you're saying, all these negative things that this lady has said about her teammate, then, you got to be mindful of how your actions are going to affect your husband. If you're going to say these things to him, you just may turn him into the very thing that you're saying, even if he's not that, or even if he doesn't want to be that. Just you affirming the negative that you don't want. So I know it can be hard in the heat of the moment. That's why I always say, like, it's never the time to talk about him needing to wash the dishes when you sitting there washing the dishes and you all in your feelings upset about washing the dishes. That at that moment of time, you got to recognize it's not the time. It can take everything out of you to just bite your tongue, have something that you learn to do for yourself, so that, and the man too, learn to do these things for yourself so that you can control that. It's like that animal instinct in you are higher than the animal. So take on being that logical person and thinking and saying, hey, this isn't the best time for this. So yep.
And set priorities together.
Yes.
So what are your shared goals? If this couple need to sit down and figure out what chore needs to be done the most.
Yeah.
What the chore needs to be done the least. What needs to be given attention to and what doesn't. Yes. So what are your individual goals? How can you support each other in achieving your goals? The husband can stop playing video games for a weekend until they catch up on chores. And not you skip out on a gym session in order to help his wife to do chores.
Yeah.
Or what have you. I'm not sure what she's doing, but she may need to give up some time doing something in order to help achieve the goal as well. So they need to come together and negotiate in order to find a resolution.
Yep. So let's give a couple more examples to really help you all see what we mean by setting priorities together. So, for example, if you have your individual goals, we talk about the step one is your individual goals and priorities. Come up with that. So, for example, one spouse might say that, they want to save money for a down payment or of a house or a car or something. And the other spouse may say, oh, I want to start a family right now. This is a pretty easy one, but when you're looking at the objectively, these are two different goals. Saving money for a down payment and starting a family is two completely different trajectories. So if you could come together and just how these individual goals and priorities can align together. So for example, if you know that the common goal is really for you both to be financially stable, because in order for you to bring a family in, you should be financially stable. And before you have kids and before you go purchase that house, you have to be financially stable. So this is that common shared goal. This is where you will come together and say, hey, that's something we both want to do that would both give us benefits towards saving for that down payment and possibly starting our kid. So then you can come up with, how can you do that? What would this look like? Maybe that would involve, hey, we're both going to come together and say we're going to save $10,000 for the year. That is your shared common goal of $10,000 that not only, you don't have to get into the delegation of where this money is going to, but it's going to provide a little something for both of y'all. Y'all will have some money for a down payment and maybe even some extra for saving for a family. Who knows? And the great thing about it is when you come up with this shared goal and as you go along, it will really kind of make it a great thing that you will be fun to do. So you could save more than you expect. You could exceed your goals. That's kind of what you want to do as a team. But anyways, either way, you have your shared goal of $10,000, and now you're able to create a budget. You're able to cut back on expenses. You're able to, do the things you need to do in order to, get to those $10,000 savings that you're going to now have. So that's just one example for money, or like any money thing that you want to try to do together. It's just so important to have those shared goals and what that would look like priority wise.
Right. In this couple's case, it would be their time. So they need to prioritize their time so that they can knock out these chores so that they can do things that they want to do.
Yep. And the one in particular would be, okay, well, how could we save the time? Like you said, you would have to then get somebody to come do the stuff for you, because then it frees up some time. In particular with this couple, I would try to throw in because this isn't something so much that, is a big goal that you kind of got to save up for per se, but make it something where you go out and celebrate. So now that you guys have freed up this time, please have fun together. Find some time to connect with each other, in particular because you're saying there's so much rift between you all, and divorce isn't an option, right? So what's the opposite of that? Coming together, spending time together, and making those connections. So make sure that now that y'all have freed up this time, put some of that time back for each other. Don't go doing separate tasks, like, 'cause it sounds like one's doing other things, but
not unless they
not
want
all
to.
the time. I think that should be something that it's something
But
you share together, like a celebration.
Yeah, that's up to them though.
Yeah, but it would help bring you together more so than,
I mean,
I'm always
anytime
thinking
together
about
will bring time together, bring you together.
That's true.
Yeah.
But another one would be, for example, talking about like your values and what's important. That's kind of what relates to this in a little bit, but in particular, say one person in your relationship really values like commitment or like respect or trust. And, you're trying to figure out how to make this more impactful for your life and how it can really benefit your life. So you could make a shared goal of spending more quality time together and, going on dates or learning other interests about each other. Just being able to set those goals together is really going to give you all a purpose and really help you all to come together and do things together that are going to show, hey, we are on a team and not working towards separate goals. And that's kind of what I want to redirect them from, because it seems like they're spending so much time apart already. Mm-hmm. She mentioned that he goes to the gym or he's sleeping or he's, Xbox or, all these other different things. She's with the kids, they're not together. It's obvious because they're not even talking about this. So they're not really spending so much time together. So if they could prioritize just spending some time together, even when you free up this time, it'll really help bring you guys closer together. Just one thing I always like to say, especially when you're trying to avoid more rift. Spending time apart only creates more rift in a way, unless you're trying to recuperate and self-care. But, we're talking about that's different. Yeah. Ready?
Yep. Be willing to compromise. So no two people are exactly alike, of course. Yeah. So there will be times when you do disagree. Mm-hmm. So be willing to compromise and find solutions that work for both of you.
Yes.
And understanding compromise, you may not always win. And more than likely you don't win, but someone has to you both may have to lose. Yeah. But the most important thing is understanding that you all have to find some sort of resolution to the situation or issue. So it is important to find that compromise where you both can agree on.
Yeah. Something I always like to say, it may not be the peaches and cream, but it's something y'all can live with. Like you can live with it, like whatever. It's,
right. I mean, because the sacrifice for both of them is time.
Yeah.
Time having to do their thing, their own hobby or whatever they like to do. So that's just a mature situation. Realize that relationships is all about maturity and being honest and being helpful, being of service. That's what it's all about. So it's not about you. It's not. It just really isn't.
Yeah. And you shouldn't want it to be. You want your spouse to get just as much from the relationship as you do. So yeah. Resolve conflicts constructively. So that's going to go right into this compromising, because of course these conflicts are going to come, and when they come, don't sweep them under the rug. Don't just not talk about them or go into full blown, just damage mode where you guys are then having to do damage control because you're hurting each other trying to just communicate. Just really look towards finding a solution. That's the biggest thing when it comes to conflict resolution, and avoiding talking when you're upset. Give some time to cool off and be respectful of that and that boundary, especially like if you know that you can tick your partner off, like, don't keep picking at them and poking at them and making things worse because you're upset,
Yeah, don't trigger them.
Yeah.
Don't do anything to trigger them. Try to really reconcile the situation, talk about what the issues are, not each other.
Yeah.
Find a common point of negotiation, things that they both can identify as solutions, and then put that plan to action.
Yeah. So that mindset, it just makes me think, because she says the focus is, slightly shifted more so on him and not more so on the actual problem, which you guys have so many things that got going on, and you got to free up that time. So that's the actual problem. So really just focus on finding a solution for the problem, and not so much, like she says, get him to want to do the chores. That's, you don't want to make him do anything. That's, not going to really help him to want to do it. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, you can only inspire change.
Yep.
And in her best case, the inspiration for change is saving money.
Yeah.
So either they want to hire a maid to save time, or either he's going to participate and save money.
Yes, that's true. Yep.
And then also to express appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
So let your spouse know how much you appreciate them.
Yeah.
Big, small, whatever the case may be, you need to let them know that you are grateful for them.
Yeah.
So words of affirmations, acts of service, gifts, and quality time are all the ways that you can show appreciation. So also to praise your spouse's efforts.
Yes.
When your spouse does chores, be sure to thank them and let them know that you appreciate their help. It really goes a long way.
Yeah.
Just saying thank you. For
And
some
people
folks,
downplay that.
right. For some folks, that is a big part of the reason why they provide the services they do, is just to hear a thank you, let you know that they really appreciate you, especially if you all are kind of showing some resentment towards each other.
Yeah.
Just a little thank you after the chore is done or after the task is complete goes a long way. It makes that person really feel like they are appreciated and are needed.
And acknowledged.
Right.
You acknowledge them and show them that, I see you and I, check you out helping out around the house. That's going to make your spouse want to do it way more than, not appreciating it. Saying, you need to be doing this. About time you start doing this,
Mm-hmm.
It's not really nice. But, yep. Also encourage and inspire each other. So that kind of goes right into what we were just saying. Be each other's biggest cheerleaders. You want to say, hey, thank you so much for doing this. I see you doing this. I love that you out here working hard and still making time to be a great dad and still making time to come home and spend time with me or like wash dishes or something, take the trash out, whatever. Even if it's those little things that, you are so used to him doing. I'm sure, talking to the wives here, I'm sure there's some things in particular that that your husband does for you and you kind of used to it. You may, in a way, take it for granted. Go back and start acknowledging him for those things and it will really show him that, hey, she does still see me doing some stuff, It might even make him want to, do more. Just like you said, how do I get him to want to do more? Well, acknowledge the things that he is doing, right? Find it. It's somewhere in there. Point out when he's being a great dad. Point out when he's doing the right thing, or even when he's succeeding at work. Point those things out. That will really help him to feel like, wow, she sees me and she appreciates me. Yeah.
Yeah. Also to be patient and forgiving. So everyone makes mistakes. So if your spouse does something to hurt you, be patient and forgiving.
Yeah.
So remember that you are human and they love you.
Yeah. Yeah. Always hold that mind, that thought. I always say that because you have to, in order, when you're going through marriage and life, it's not always going to be happiness and rainbows and glitter and gold. It's sometimes you're going to be in the mud together, but be understanding to when that's going on, like, hey, I'm still your teammate and I see you, I forgive you, I understand, I'm patient with you, things is a little rocky right now, but I'm going to be patient, I'm going to be understanding, I'm going to accept you for who you are and love you in that state of time so that you're filled up, right? So that you're feeling up to doing the other great things that I would love for you to do too. Kind of have that in mind and that'll really help in the long run.
Right. And then coordinate your routine. So this doesn't mean you have to do everything together.
Yeah.
So, but it does mean being on the same page about things like finances, chores, and childcare.
Yes. Yeah. You really do have to get on the same page about that and have those conversations. Like the video, talk, if you're thinking about quitting your job, let your spouse know before you can quit your job so that then y'all can plan together on how y'all can quit your job or how you can quit your job and y'all still, make ends meet and she still feels comfortable about what's going on. Like a great leader is a great communicator, a very effective communicator. So then your whole team knows what's going on and y'all can make the best moves.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
So, if you can follow these steps, you'll be well on your way to becoming a stronger and successful team in your romantic relationship.
Yes, that is so true. You will be, because I'm trying to, pull up this question, make sure still looks good. But yeah, that's so true because in the long run, you're going to have to keep doing these steps over and over and over. To be honest, it's like when you're problem solving, for like a computer program or like malware or something like that, it's like steps, right?
Mhm.
That you have to take every single time. And those are the steps that have shown to work. So anytime that problem comes up, you take those steps every single time.
It's called a reference. So you have a reference of a resolution.
Yeah.
And so you have a pathway of success. And that's what this lady, if she sticks to what we've said, then she won't, like I said, they will argue a little bit less each time. They will be able to resolve whatever conflict they have and work as a team together to get things accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So real quick, as we recap this, just so we kind of went over these steps really fast. But of course, first, communicate openly and honestly. So talking about your expectations, being careful of how you're communicating, being specific in the sense of being nice as well when you're being specific and being mindful. Number 2 would be setting your priorities. So having shared common goals together, coming to that common resolution for each other. Let me see. Yep.
Be willing to compromise. Also to resolve conflict constructively.
Yeah. Yep.
And express appreciation for each other.
Yep.
And then also to coordinate your routines.
Yep. And encourage and inspire each other. Yeah. That's the last part. And that again, we can't downplay how much and how important that is. But, like any sports team, what is the main thing that's fun about the sports team is cheering and rooting for your team.
It's winning.
Yeah. And winning. Right. Winning. So cheer for each other and do these things so that you can be a teammate together and actually be working towards your goals together and doing great things together. Because divorce is not an option, ma'am. When you're married and you're really in this and sticking to it, regardless of what, other ideologies may be out there. If you hold the ideology that divorce is not an option, you open your mind to the endless possibilities of how you're going to make this work versus limiting yourself to saying it ain't.
Right. Yep. So with that being said, go out there and win. Go out there and win. So
let's see the questions. Yep. Got any questions? Hold on.
So with that being said, anybody have any questions in the chat? Any information, any suggestions for next show topics or what have you? Looks like we don't have any, so we really appreciate you all for joining us
on this Tuesday night.
Yep. Instagram viewers, thank you all. We got you all, and YouTube viewers. You all are the reason why we do this. A lot of us grew up without seeing the family dynamic and parent, the mother and father aspect, and trying to provide information to you all about how relationships work successfully and how they really can thrive today in this type of in this day and age. So it is really a thing. People still are getting married. Yeah. The statistics are showing that people are getting married later in life, but people are still getting married. Yeah. Even though they are getting married less, divorce rates are rising, and that is what we're trying to fix. We're trying to help those numbers get better.
Yeah, because this institution was created by God. I always like to say that first. Aside from all this state stuff, God created the institution of a man and a woman coming together and having bigger and larger dominion over your land and your life and your just so that God can really come in and work great things. Don't stop God's beautiful plan. The man and a woman coming together is like a miracle to me. Like it's like the beautiful. It not only does it create life, but the great things that can happen when a man and a woman just comes together, like God can work through some great families, and that's what we're here for. We really want to help God do this. I always said that, like, God, don't limit this to our imagination. Work through this platform, let him do his thing, have his way, and yeah, we just gonna sit back and be happy with y'all and see the results and be excited because forget all these other statistics. People want to get married. That's like in your heart. And I believe that's like God. People want that connection, that deepness, that not only to mention loneliness, the epidemic of loneliness is killing our people. Like it's an epidemic. Like that's no small thing. Like this is real. The consequences of loneliness is much bigger than we can think about. And then on top of it, the self-deletion rates are crazy among kids, our children. Like we need families, y'all. We really do. So we appreciate y'all for tuning in and supporting us. And we here to support y'all for real.
Yep. So until next time, Blueprint family, thank you all for joining us. For those people who joined very late, please go back and watch this video. It was some very valuable gems that we dropped in there for you all. So please like, share, subscribe. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube as well and help us get those numbers up. And until next time, Blue.
What is that? Oh, sorry. We gotta move this. We're gonna get this set up different. I can't wait for that because yeah, it's a little bit slightly off.